Everybody, welcome back to the channel. We're continuing our read through of Brandon Sanderson's The Way of Kings, and we're up to chapter 33, Cymatics, which is an interesting chapter. There's a really beautiful sheet of drawing that you're going to see here, and not too much of a spoiler here. These are things that through her studies, Shallan has drawn or recorded. And so we know that Shallan's an artist, and that's been made clear throughout the story. So things that she has recorded are going to be the images that you're going to see throughout this book. And it's going to help you kind of come along with her on the journey. Well, what is specific about this sheet, we're going to get to in the story. But at the very beginning of the chapter, Shallan has been given like 1 hour a day by Jasnah to kind of study and research whatever she wants. And she has really grown to love that hour. So she's with her parshman who's holding a stack of books, and you'll remember the parshman semi-related to these kind of parshendi that are out fighting Dalinar and Bridge 4 out on the Shattered Plains. Well, the Parshmen are very docile. They are kind of like the opposite, it seems, of these warring Parshendi. And the Parshmen are their slaves. They lug stuff around, they don't speak, and they just do. And so she has a parshman with her, and he's carrying a couple spheres and a lantern, and they're going into the Palanaeum, which is the massive library, as well as other things that it sort of doubles as a massive space and a great place to store books. So she's going down, and what she's looking for is a book that Jasnah was reading. And anything that Jasnah's studying, Shallan is pretty interested in it, because she doesn't know what her end game is, right? She knows that she's there because she needs to be stealing this fabrial, this soulcaster. But what is she so fascinated with? And one of these books she specifically took note of. And so she goes down, and it's been a couple weeks since she has seen it, and she's hoping that it's been time for her to have returned the book and it to be put back on the shelves. And so the book was called Shadows Remembered, and sure enough, she finds it, pulls it off the shelf, begins flipping through it, and is really surprised to see that it is a children's storybook. Not what she was expecting this famed intellect of Jasnah Kholin to be studying. And inside are ancient stories of void-bringers who chase children around who are misbehaving with their family. Stories of this sort of fabled tower where the ancient radiance would exist and live. And she's shocked. Like, these are just fables. These are stories. What is this got to do with what Jasnah's doing? Well, she doesn't have a whole lot of time to ponder it because, if she takes too long, she's not going to have more time for anything else she wants to do. So she collects her books, heads over back to the reading room that she was in, and who does she find? She finds the young ardent Kabsal. You'll remember Kabsal. He originally came to try to reconvert Jasnah from being a heretic. And why is she a heretic? Well, she has denied the existence of the Almighty, which is the god of Vorinism, which is what Shallan follows, which is what everyone in Alethkar follows. She has denied Vorinism, and she does not believe that God exists. And if he does, he is dead, because clearly nothing out there is controlling things the way that an all-powerful God should be. So he has been coming regularly to meet with Jasnah. Now, Shallan maybe sees through this a little bit, because conveniently, every time Kabsal shows up, Jasnah is not there, and Shallan is there. And every time he shows up, he has brought a gift for Jasnah. However, it is bread and jam. And it is very clear, and Shallan has told him a number of times, Jasnah doesn't like jam. And yet he keeps showing up with jam. So she's maybe seeing through some of his innocence in talking with Jasnah, and she perceives it to be, is he here for me? And is he actually even allowed to be here for me? He's an ardent. And are they even allowed to pursue relationships? Is that like a thing? So they begin talking, eating their jam, strawberry jam specifically, on bread, and kind of going back and forth. And Kabsal sort of eventually does share, we are concerned about you, Shallan, at the ardentry. We are concerned that you are going to be misled by Jasnah. And she tries to confirm and console him. No, I'm not going to be led astray into heresy. She grew up in the devotary of purity. That is one of the little, branches, the devotary, little, different specific focus out of Vornism. And the things that she was taught was, to be pure, to be true, to be respectful, those types of pure motives. And Kabsal, when he hears that, he sort of challenges her and says, you know what, I think you're in the wrong devotary. You need to be coming to my devotary. And what is my devotary? All we do in my devotary, we study. We push science forward. We actually worship the Almighty through appreciating and understanding how the world works, which is exactly where Shallan mentally and interest level would be. So he just challenges her, consider it. Consider what I study, what we study through science and through regular rituals, through anything to do with pushing knowledge forward. That's what we're about. And I think you would really fit in well. So they continue on their conversation, but then we get to what he would tell Jasnah if he had the choice. And Shallan challenges him a little bit because she's like, Kabsal, it seems like you're very much seeking distinction in the sense that you want to be the one to convert Jasnah. Well, he confesses, I am seeking distinction. I probably shouldn't be. But if I was the one who could convert her back, and you know what? I have the means to do it. I have proof that the Almighty exists. Shallan goes, okay, tell me more. And he gets out some sand and a piece of metal, as well as a string. I think like a violin string. Put some sand down on it, and he drags the string along the piece of metal, creating a vibration, a specific note. And sure enough, the sand bounces to a shape. Well, not just any shape. Let me go back to that first slide, that first picture here. And sure enough, each of the slides that he does on the metal and the sand bounce to those 4 shapes. And what are those 4 shapes? Those are the shapes that the major cities of Alethkar are designed as. So, Akina, Thalen City, Vedanar, and Kolinar, they all resemble immediately the shape that musical notation has created in the sand. Well, Shallan, being a good scientist, says, well, why couldn't they have just built the cities to the shape? If that's going to be the big proof. What if they found that note and then just built the cities and thought, oh, that's cool, let's just design cities like these musical notes? He says, I've thought of that. Well, actually, it's not the buildings and the city. It's the land structure beneath it that they built the buildings to match. You see, the Almighty was so purposeful that he designed the actual land to be unified to the order of the music and sounds. He had so much creative care in what he did that we can see it even in the way that the land has been created. And he said, if I had a chance to talk to Jasnah, that would prove to her that the Almighty exists, because he created symmetry between music and the earth, music and ground, sound and material. That would be my proof. Well, you know what? He gets a chance. Because who shows up? Jasnah shows up. And sort of Shallan stands up. I'm so sorry, Brian. I've been wasting time. And Jasnah shows up and says, you're not a captive child. You can have visitors. Just be careful to check your skin for tooth marks. These types have a habit of dragging their prey out to sea with them. right? She's not pleased. She's not a fan of the ardents or the different devotees, right? And she challenged him. She sees what he did, right? She sees the sand, the music, the notation. She knows what's happening here. And what does she say? She says, can that plate reproduce a cymatic pattern corresponding to Urithiru priest? Or do you only have patterns for the standard 4 cities? Now, what is Urithiru? Well, it's a fable, something that would have been in that child's book. This is like the ancient tower that the Radiants used to live in before they allegedly abandoned their oaths and, turned their backs on the world. And if this is all true, well, maybe this is just the 4 that they've been able to concoct the story for, like he showed Shallan. It'd be really impressive if you had one that would match the shape of Urithiru, and that would also prove to us that it's actually true. She's challenging his logic. Well, he gets pretty upset and walks off. The chapter ends with Shallan saying, you know what? That was very rude, Jasnah. He was being nice. He was just trying to have a conversation. And she essentially ends, and Jasnah challenges her to say, he's not here for you, Shallan. He's actually here for my soul caster. And when Shallan hears that, she kind of panics. Does she know? And she says, well, he never asked me about that. And Jasnah says, just wait. He's going to. That's why he's here. I'm sorry to break your heart. He's not interested in you. And Shallan challenges at the end and says, that's somewhat arrogant of you, don't you think? And she says, only if I'm wrong, child. And I rarely am. So Kabsal, is he interested in Shallan? Is he just there to steal Jasnah's soulcaster like she claimed? We'll see as we continue on in the story. But isn't it interesting, maybe even that the world is designed in a way that the cities are built on rock faces and formations that match the symmetry of music and nature. Is there something to what Kabsal says, or is this all a farce to just steal from Jasnah, like Shallan wants to do? We'll see as we continue the story. So thanks so much for watching. If you're interested, you can like and subscribe, and check out the playlist where you've got all the chapters so far in the story, and look forward to continuing to read through Brandon Sanderson's The Way of Kings in the next video.